Welcome back to On the Move with Victor Shi. It is Wednesday, February 22nd. 2024 is getting well underway with both Nikki Haley and Donald Trump announcing their run in the Republican primary. So far, what we've seen from Donald Trump has been par for the course, spewing more nonsense and dangerous rhetoric for the country. Nikki Haley, while on the surface, she seems saner, is just as bad as Donald Trump. She believes in many of the same policies Trump does, but hides it under a veneer of competence and sanity. But none of us should be fooled. And today, we're going to talk about 2024, the Republican primary, the Republican Party, and where it goes from here. And there's really no one better than Joe Walsh to do it. Joe previously served in the Illinois House, or I guess in the U.S. House of Representatives, and represented Illinois' 8th congressional district. He left the Republican Party, though, because of what Trump did to it and what it's become. And he is now a very important and critical voice in this fight to save democracy. Joe, it's so great to see you.
Victor, it's awesome to be with you. I get hope for this country every day I listen to you. Thank you.
Oh, too kind. Well, let's start off by talking about 2024. Like I said, so far, Nikki Haley and Donald Trump are running. So I just want to ask you, how do you see this race so far between Nikki Haley and Donald Trump and what it says about what the Republican primary is shaping out to be?
I don't think there's a race. Look, I think things are where they've always been. The 2024 Republican nominee will be Trump or the Trumpiest candidate out there, period. There is no never Trumper lane in this Republican Party. Victor, there's no not Trump lane. There's no kind of Trump lane. You have to be either Trump or be the cruelest, most dishonest, most authoritarian son of a bitch, just like Trump, to get the nomination. That's the only lane, and that's not Nikki Haley.
Mm-hmm. So that makes me wonder if there's anyone left, people like Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, Liz Cheney, there might be rumors that she might be running for president, although we're not sure. But if she does run for president in the Republican primary, does she have any room for a potential win?
No, none. I mean, Victor, Liz Cheney's a bigger name than I am, but it would be like me running for president again. If you publicly oppose Trump and Trumpism, which Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger do, you have no place in this party, period. Now, Liz may want to run, but she can't win. She knows she couldn't win. She may want to run to shame Trump. But my God, I caution her, Victor, and I caution Adam Kinzinger or any principled conservative against running, because you don't want to do anything that will help Trump get the nomination.
Right. And we're expecting Ron DeSantis to also throw his ring in the hat. And he seems to me to be someone who is as Trumpy as it gets. Do you think Ron DeSantis could beat Trump if he runs for office in the primary?
Yeah, because go back to what I said at the beginning. Here's what Republican voters want. They want Trump or the Trumpiest son of a bitch they can get. And right now that's DeSantis. And here's what's really important. Everybody supporting DeSantis is a Trump supporter. I hear from them every day, and they tell me every day, Joe, I love Trump. I just don't think he can win. DeSantis is just like Trump. I think he can win. So all of DeSantis's support is Trump supporters. Here's the thing, though. I know DeSantis. DeSantis hasn't been on a national stage yet. Nobody knows who he is and how he'll react. But every Trump supporter right now is using him as their default.
And then once he runs, I mean, what about Ron DeSantis do people like? I mean, you mentioned that you've been talking to a lot of supporters. What about him is appealing? I'm actually kind of curious about that.
This is so hard to wrap our arms around, Victor, but here's the deal. Because I come from that world, the Republican base has been radicalized. They no longer believe in truth. They've given up on democracy. They want an authoritarian to rule them, and they want to destroy their political opponents. This is where the base of the Republican Party is. This is what Trump always gave them. This is what DeSantis is signaling he'll give them. He'll be an authoritarian. He'll be a culture war warrior. He'll go after the LGBTQ community. He'll go after CNN. He'll go after the left. That's what Republican voters, sadly, that's all they want.
And that's their appetite. And that makes me kind of wonder, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this, given what happened in 2016 and also 2020 and even 2022, it's important for the media to figure out how to cover the Republican candidates in the Republican field. If you were an executive at a cable news channel, what do you think is the right approach to covering these candidates?
That's such a great question, and I still don't have a good answer. Look, if Ron DeSantis runs or Trump and Trump's running again, you have to obviously treat them as legitimate candidates. But Victor, I so worry about truth.
Yeah,
to me, Trump's greatest legacy is the destruction of truth.
Right.
And if I'm a network or I'm a journalist and I'm covering these Republican candidates, I'm calling them out every day for untruths.
Yeah.
Somehow that's got to be the focus.
I mean, you mentioned truth, and that's also one of my biggest concerns, which is how just voters and people believe in what they're told. And I think a lot of it falls on the shoulders of people like Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, and Sean Hannity, who last week they knew that the election was not fraudulent, yet they still lied to their voters. But how do we return to a place where truth actually matters? Or do you think these people who are listening to Tucker and Sean and Laura are completely gone in terms of any sort of acknowledgement of truth?
Most of them, Victor, are gone. And let's think about who we're talking about, because again, I come from that right-wing media world. Who are we talking about? Who's Tucker's audience? Tucker's audience is primarily middle-aged and older white people. And Victor, they're set. They're set in their beliefs. They're set in their world view. And most of them cannot be changed. Now, I engage with these people every week, Victor. I'm able to move some, but it's at a real small scale. So I think what we have to do at this moment in history is call out the Tucker Carlsons and the Sean Hannitys. Try to reach people in his audience. But really what we have to do is then take the rest of America, independents, Democrats, progressives, principled conservatives. We're at this point in our history, man, you know this, you and I have talked about this, where Joe Walsh and Victor Shi need to lock arms to defend our democracy. Right. So what we have to do, knowing we can't change most of Tucker Carlson's audience, all the rest of us have to stay unified. Look at me. I'm still a crazy conservative, and I'm working my ass off to help get Democrats elected. That is what we have to do right now.
Because, I mean, no matter the policy differences that we may have, we at least want to see democracy function, and we believe in facts and the rule of law. And that's kind of this moment that we're in. We have a party that doesn't believe in that. And I want to go back to something that you just said, which is that you try to have those conversations and you move some people in small ways. But I think that's pretty important, how to have those individual conversations with Republicans and Trump supporters. How do you approach it? And how do you recommend maybe a Democrat or someone who doesn't come from that world to approach a conversation with a Republican?
Listen to them. Listen and see if you can figure out what their concerns and fears and frustrations are. Find out where they're coming from, and then continue to put little nuggets of truth in front of them. Victor, I've found that's the only way I can get a light bulb to go off in a mega cult member, is I just continue to push back respectfully, but firmly, against what they hear every night from Trump or Tucker or Hannity. And I just keep putting little nuggets of truth in front of them till they finally get to the point where they say, oh my God, I've been lied to. This is bullshit. I've been lied to. I just think that's the only way to do it.
I mean, I really hope everyone knows what Tucker and Laura and Sean did and how they knew the election was not fraudulent, yet they still lied to their voters. And people sadly believed in that. And then now with Kevin McCarthy giving Tucker Carlson 41,000 hours of tapes, I mean, we all know that he's going to distort them, and his audience will probably believe in him too. But I want to shift gears a bit to the House, because we're paying a lot of attention to Ukraine, as we should. And it's the 1-year anniversary since Putin invaded Ukraine, and a group of Republicans led by Matt Gaetz, which I think should tell us everything, want to withdraw support from Ukraine because they're fatigued. You would think that this would be a party that would stand up to Russian aggression, but it isn't. How concerning is that?
It's a It's not a fringe view in the Republican Party. Look, Victor, I'm not a neocon, and I oppose the Iraq invasion, and I wanted us out of Afghanistan a long time ago. I'm generally a non-interventionist, but I recognize on my right the Marjorie Taylor Greens and the Jim Jordans and a lot of these people, the Tucker Carlsons. Man, they don't want America involved at all in the world. They want to build a wall around this country and keep the rest of the world, by the way, out of our country as well. It's also, this is what's really scary, though. There is again, the base of the Republican Party is very pro-authoritarian. Yeah. You would be amazed. The people listening to us right now would be amazed the number of conversations I've had with Republican voters who don't have a problem with Putin. I mean, don't. This is scary. And I encourage all of my former colleagues in the House and the Senate, Republicans, to push back hard against this.
Wow, that is shocking. And I want to zoom out for a bit because I want to ask you more about your former home, the House, and what it's become. I mean, we remember how many times it took Kevin McCarthy to become Speaker, and ever since we've just seen just really absurd decisions from Kevin, giving key committee assignments to Marjorie Taylor Greene and other far-right people. I'm wondering, I know during your time in the House, it was just as, or maybe less chaotic, but pretty chaotic. Have you ever seen the Republican Party in this position, though, before?
No, and we were, again, Victor, you know me, I was the face of the Tea Party in the Republican House caucus. We were out there, but I always felt like we were pushing that for issues. This is completely different. Why did Kevin McCarthy give all this January 6th surveillance footage to Tucker Carlson? Because Marjorie Taylor Greene told him to. End of story. You and I said, a bunch of us said, McCarthy was going to sell his soul to become Speaker. He sold every body part. And Marjorie has him by the short hairs. I served with McCarthy. All McCarthy wants is to remain Speaker. So he'll cut whatever deal he has to cut to get that done. But the scary part again, though, is everybody listening to us, Marjorie's not fringe. No. There are 220 Republicans in the House, my friend. Easily 2/3 of that caucus are either election deniers or voted not to certify the election. This is mainstream Republicanism right now. It's not fringe.
And we're seeing that play out with Marjorie Taylor Greene now calling for secession. And I don't know if you've kept track, but to my understanding, the vast majority of Republicans in the House have yet to say anything about it, which is shocking. I mean, it's on one hand, it's like what Marjorie Taylor Greene sometimes says, it's laughable, but this is one of those things where she's totally serious about this. And it's shocking that she's actually calling for secession, even though she comes from a blue state. So I'm really just, every single time I hear her talk, every single time I hear one of those far-right people talk, it's like, this is what's become the Republican Party. And it leaves me wondering, I mean, what is the end goal for Republicans? They aren't focused on policies. Like you said, they aren't focused on issues anymore. They aren't doing things that would help American people. So what are they trying to do?
Destroy you. Destroy Joe Biden. Destroy CNN, MSNBC. Destroy Hakeem Jeffries. Their mission is to destroy the left. It's not much more complicated than that. I think the theme here is that the Republican Party base has become radicalized. Yeah. The scariest aspect of that, Victor, is that they've given up on democracy. These folks who I engage with every week, they want like 1954 America back, where life was simple, right? You had mostly white Americans, and men were men and women were women, and men married women, and you could say Merry Christmas. They want that America back. Here's the deal, though. This is what's scary. They no longer believe democracy, the democratic process, can give them that America back. So they want a strong man. They want DeSantis or Trump, an authoritarian. They revere Orban in Hungary. They want somebody like that in America who can just give them back their America.
It's frightening, and I think it's up to the Democratic Party to try to do its best to bring in those people. And we know I think we've talked about this before. The Democratic Party isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they do offer, at least they are a party that cares about democracy and about the issues. So I'm wondering, if you had to give Democrats advice on what they should be doing ahead of 2024, what should they be doing to reach Republicans and bring everyone together and be that party where people can go to and find a home?
Two things I'd say. And again, we got to be smart. Leave it to people like me to try to go into mega world and save souls. Democrats shouldn't be doing that. What Democrats should do, again, is embrace the entire coalition, principled conservatives to progressives. We got to keep that coalition together to defeat what this Republican Party has become. The other advice I'd give is, man, Democrats need to fight. Look, Biden's 80 years old, and he's never going to be able to fight like a 60 or a 50-year-old Joe Biden could. But Democrats need to fight. They need to be prepared to get dirty and to get tough and to roll up their sleeves and to punch. Engage. By the way, engage in these culture wars. This is what pisses me off, Victor. Republicans are always pushing the Republican war stuff. I used to do some of that. Most Americans agree with Democrats on the culture war issues. Democrats, for some reason, are afraid to engage in the fight on issues of race and gender and what's being taught in our schools. Democrats need to fight on this turf.
I agree. It's that whole, the classic Michelle Obama saying, when they go low, we go high. It's like, no, they will keep on getting lower, and we have to get on their level to fight that, because if we don't, they're never going to learn. They're never going to change who they are. So I totally agree with you on that, and 2024 is coming up very, very soon, and I am so grateful for your voice and everything that you do, and thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Keep it up, my friend. Love what you do, Victor.
Thanks so much. Bye, Joe. Well, Joe Walsh is one of those Republicans who, like you said, he was a part of the Tea Party movement, but now he's really trying to just convince Republicans, give them the light, but also just fight for democracy. And I think we need more Republicans like that who are willing to speak up and say something about their former party. So thank you, Joe Walsh, for all that you do, if you're still listening. We have some news of the day that we want to get into before I let you go. First is some great news out of two states yesterday. There were two elections. One election was in Virginia. That was in Virginia's 4th congressional district, and Jennifer McClellan ran in that district against this far-right MAGA conspiracy theorist, and she won. And it's really amazing because she has made history as the first Black woman to ever represent Virginia in Congress. So that is really needed representation. It's not only well-needed representation, but she also beat a far-right candidate. So it's good news for democracy. It's good news for Virginia. It's good news for this kind of country. So she's going to be a great representative. The group that I'm with, Voters of Tomorrow, had the pleasure to endorse her in the primary, or I guess in the election. So she's going to be a great candidate, not only for Virginia's 4th district, but also for young people. She's someone who has really defended the issues that young people care about, listened to young people, included young people in the conversation. And so I think we all know that she's going to be a great representative. And also, thank goodness that we defeat another extremist in Virginia. There's also news out of Wisconsin. The Wisconsin State Supreme Court election, their primary was yesterday, and the Democrat, Janet, I'm going to probably butcher this name, Protasiewicz, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She will be advancing to the general election, and she will be facing Daniel Kelly, who is her far-right opponent. Now, I've talked about this on the show before, and we're going to talk about it more as we head into Election Day in Wisconsin, but this is an election with tremendously high stakes. Yesterday was the primary, and we know who's going to be on the Democratic side. We know who's going to be on the Republican side, although they say it's nonpartisan, but really nothing is nonpartisan about it. But against those two, it's going to be a really, really important race. We need everyone to turn out to vote, because literally abortion rights, voting rights, any right that you care about is up for grabs, because right now the Supreme Court is evenly tied, and we need a Democrat on there to make sure that we protect the rights that we care about, the issues that we care about. And so we'll all be paying attention to that race. And one other thing that I thought was really interesting yesterday, President Biden made a really amazing speech in Warsaw, Poland about the current state of Ukraine and Russia, and he called out Putin by name. He was aggressive, he was strong. It was, to me, one of, I think, the speeches that will go down in history. It reminded me of, not in the same kind of context, but kind of in the same just historic sense, of Reagan's tear down this wall speech. It was a really historic speech, and he was strong. And this is someone who, we were talking about age on this show a little bit before with Joe, but this is someone who's 80 years old. He made a 20-hour trip to Ukraine, to Kiev. He met the president of Ukraine on a war zone, on a literal war zone, and then less than 24 hours later, traveled to Warsaw, Poland, and gave this speech in front of thousands of people on a global stage. I mean, if this were any other president, we wouldn't be questioning or doubting their capacity to serve. We would be embracing that. And so, for President Biden to do this, I think was really historic, and just really such a strength of President Biden's, and something that, frankly, President Trump could never bring himself to do. So it's a great kind of reemergence of America on the global stage. And I think we should all be grateful for President Biden and what he's been able to accomplish these past few years. That's all the news that I have for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode with Joe Walsh and found it somewhat informative. I'll be back tomorrow with Katie Fang. You do not want to miss that. She is an MSNBC host and also a legal analyst with the show. We'll be talking about Trump woes and what we should expect going forward. And we'll also be talking about her maybe not competitor, but Fox News and maybe the downfall of Fox News with that Dominion lawsuit. So don't miss that. We'll be back with Katie Fang tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, right here on youtube.com/Politicon. You do not want to miss that. And then on Friday, I'll be back with JoJo from Jurors, who is very, very famous on Twitter. You don't want to miss that. We'll be talking about all the issues that Democrats care about and what we can do to push back against Republicans. Thank you so much for watching this episode, and I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.